it's Joe from Joe's Tech Bits. I'm here today with another video. Today what I'd like to talk about is another way you can use the program Advanced Renamer to go get data for your Plex server and help rename all your files, your TV shows and seasons and episodes using Advanced Renamer, and it can be a really easy way to do it. I'll also show you the Plex format needed for your Plex server to make it work much better. So if you have a Plex server running on your network, your local network, this video is for you. Here we go. I mentioned that I was going to show you the file format for the TV shows. This page is on the Plex website, and it's one of the support articles, and it shows the recommended naming of your files for showing on a Plex server. And if you look down here, it gives you a lot of good information about naming these files. But one of the important things I wanted to show you here was right here. The naming of the season and episode is very important. You have an S for the season and the season number, followed by an E and the episode number with no spacing in between. And I'll show you that again later. So I would suggest I put this website in the description, and it's going to be on one of my pages in the video. So you can go here and read up and see what you can find out if you have a particular kind of file or situation. This is the standard season-based shows that I will be showing you, but there's also date-based TV shows, mini-series, specials, and multiple episodes in a single file. Now if you go here on the right-hand side, go down to examples, it gives you a whole bunch of different examples of naming files. Here's one similar to the one we'll be using, with the name, the date, the season, episode number, and the description. So I have a short highlight of the that page, and again the big thing is this notation right here: season and the number and the episode number, no spacing. And here's an example of the way you can do it. Now the dashes here can be dashes, dots, or just spaces. It's optional to use the dashes. So let's go look at how to do this in the Advanced Renamer program. The first way I'd like to show you to get some metadata into your Plex server files is to go to the TVDB.com website. The is on the front, but it's actually the TVDB website. Now if you go here, we're going to search for Magnum. Since that's the file I'd like to show you as an example of the show. If we go here, the files I have are from the newer Magnum, this series here, so we'll click on that. And what I want to do is work on season 1. So here's season 1. The only thing we need to do here is copy all of the information on the episodes from season 1, episode 1 through 20. Now, just realize here, the description here, if you can see, if I put my cursor over the description, it becomes a hand, which means that it is a link. So just be aware of that, because it could give you a problem later on if the link stays with the name. But what I will do is right-click here and do a copy. Now it's copied to the clipboard. Now we can go over to my LibreOffice Calc spreadsheet. This is probably the easiest way to sort out all the information, because as you saw, there's information we won't be using. All we need is the season, episode information and the description. So what I'm going to do is paste what we saved to the clipboard. And you see here we have all this information. We need column A and B. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We need the description and the season and episode. We don't need these dates for our purposes. Maybe you might need them for something, but I'm just going to delete these two columns. Now we're down to the two columns, and again, I want you to realize that these are links. And you see when I click on one, it wants me to open the link with a control click, which I don't really need. I do need just plain text here, but we'll handle that later. Now the other thing we need, now that we have this information, we need to save it in a comma delimited file, a CSV file type. What that will be, it'll take column A and column B, each item in there, and separate each item all the way down the line with a comma. So that's the way the advanced renamer program will be able to separate the columns out. So let me show you how to do that. But there's one problem here. If you see this item here, there's a comma in the description, and if you see this item here, I, the deceased, there's a comma here. You can't leave that comma in there because it'll act like another separator in those two files. So we need to remove them, but I'll show you an easy way to do it. So let's first save this. We're going to save it as, and we want to give it a name. We'll call it Magnum 1 Info. Pick any name you want. But here's the important thing. You have to save it as a text CSV file. Now once you hit save, it's going to see if you really want to save it in that format or go back to the spreadsheet format. Well, we want it in that format. We want to use a comma, which is here as a delimiter. You could use other characters, which would make our little comma situation here a moot point, but I like to use the comma. It's easier to remember. And we don't want to mark any strings with quotes because then the file name won't like it. You'll get an error. If you try it, you'll see it, but I would remove the quote. We'll say OK. Now we should have a file with that information in it. I saved the file, the CSV file, over to my desktop. Here it is, Magnum Info 1. And if I right-click on it, I can go down to Open With and open it with Notepad. And you can see now all the formatting was taken out when I saved it and opened it in Notepad, so that we can easily edit those extra commas out, like one here, and there's one down here, and then we don't need this mid-season finale note here. We can take that out, and we can take the season finale out, and then just save our file. And we could close it. Now we can go over to the advanced renamer and bring this data into that program. Bringing up advanced renamer, you see it's pretty much a blank screen. So the first thing we need to do is bring in our original files. Now there's two ways you can do that. You can bring up the folder panel here and bring them in right from here. You can navigate to wherever they're saved. You can actually bring in the whole folder. Here it is here. If we bring in the whole folder, we can do it that way, but if you look here, sometimes these are out of order as far as the numbers. So what I'd rather do is go over to the original file directory, and here it is here, and we'll start at 1 and go down to 20 and just bring them in. And we can actually close this folder panel here. Now you see they're all in order. Now if for some reason I bring them in and see they're out of order, you can actually sort them by clicking on the file name up here. See, there they go, descending order, and they're in ascending order. We want them like this. The next thing we need to do is bring in our data from the TVDB site. So we have it in a CSV file, so let's go click on that. Find our file, which is on the desktop, right here. And there it is, Magnum Info 1. We'll open that. Now you can see it's nicely formatted into two separate columns. So all we need to do is click on Import, and we have the files imported. Actually, we're importing the file names, not the files themselves. Just wanted to clear that up. If you'd like, you can go back to my first video that I did last year on this same advanced renamer program and get some of the basics down. But what I like to do to show you here is how to set this up for Plex. So we have all the methods here. You can add a new name, case, you can move things, remove things, put a pattern in and remove it, renumber items, replace, add, all of these things here. What I'd like to do is do a new name. Now, by picking a new name, what I like to do is follow the Plex guidelines for naming the files. First thing, we need the title, so we're going to put Magnum in. And you can put something like Season 1. That would be good. Then you can put a space. Now if you see, all the new file names are over here. These are the original, these are the new ones. But right now they're all in red, showing an error. And I'll show you, it says possibility of multiple files with the same name. Well, of course they are. They all say Magnum Season 1. But what we can do now, if we look at our advanced tags here, and there are many different selections of tags. We need to go to the advanced tags, and we need to go to the CSV file imported from CSV File. Now you notice it put a 1 here next to the file name of the CSV. So it only put the first field, which is field 1. And also, we're only working on the name. If we wanted to change the name and extension, we'd select that or just the extension. But we don't want to touch the extension. We want to keep that the same. So what we're going to do now is go here again and add another CSV field, but this time we'll call it CSV2 because it was the second field. Now you can see all of the descriptions were added from our CSV file, but how about this? Everything's squished together here, the season, episode number, and the description. So what we have to do is go over here in between the two and add a space. Now that looks a lot better. Now the other thing I just realized, in the original file it has a date, so we're going to just put the date back in there. And again, we need a space there after the date. So now we could also, instead of using spaces to separate out the fields, we could also put a dash. I believe Plex likes dashes. So we'll put dashes there instead. Now if you look and see, we got no errors. We have our complete file name, and we also have everything in good shape. Just to double check, all the episodes are in order. The problem I mentioned earlier about making sure these were sorted, sometimes if they aren't sorted properly, these won't match up with this. But since everything looks good, we'll hit Start Batch, and we have 20 renames. We'll hit Start. And we'll say OK. Now, if we screwed up and somehow realize we did something we didn't want to do, you can undo the last batch. In fact, you can undo batches, previous batches, if you go up here to undo previous batch. Now if we go back and look at our original, or where the originals were, you can see all the renamed files right here in our Season 1 folder. And we have the name, the date, the season, episode and season, and the description. Now we could have made a little more space here, put a space, dash space, and it would have looked a little nicer, but it doesn't matter to Plex. Plex will take it either way. So that would be how we do the first data extraction from TVDB. We'll see the second one next. I'd like to show you a better way to get your data for your Plex Server file names than I showed you in the first part of this video. You don't have to do any cut and pasting or sorting or deleting fields or anything, because Advanced Renamer has a built-in function. If you look at import, if you remember, we went here to get the data from a CSV file, but right below that there's a TVShow function, and you can see right here it uses a website called TVMaze.com. I'll show you TVMaze. Looks very similar to TVDB, and you can look up all different TV shows. Now I'm going to look up Magnum, and you see we have the two Magnums, the new and the old. Here's the new one, and we can go right to seasons and then season 1. Now if we look at season 1, the episodes, here's the season 1 episode list. We could really do the same thing we did with TVDB if we wanted to, and just copy all these episode numbers and names, dates, but we don't have to do that. We go back to Advanced Renamer, and if you read this TVShow import, it says use this guide to populate files in the list with TVShow information gathered from TVMaze. And it gives you a little heads up. You should make sure the files are in the correct order. And then when importing from TVMaze, you can use the TVShow tags to rename files with TVShow information. Well, as you saw before, when we import it into the program, it puts it in what they call tags. And we use the CSV tag in the other TVDB scenario. In this one, we're going to do something a little different, but we're still going to import into the tag data. So we're going to search for a show. We'll just put Magnum in, and there's our show right at the top, the 2018 version. And we want season 1, and everything looks like it's in order, 1 through 20. We say OK. Now what that did, it imported that data into the tags in this program. Before I do any more, I just wanted to remind you of the help here in the program. The Getting Started section gives you a good general idea of how to use the program. It gives you a rundown on the different methods used, and here's one using a renamer, advanced renamer. It has a lot of information in here. Now, if that isn't enough, you can go back to help, and they have a very good forum which you can go and ask a question. And there's 15 pages of data right here of questions and answers. And I've been in here trying to find information and actually found it. So this is a great resource for this program. So back to our Magnum. Before we do anything, let's load up our original file names here. We can either go load them from the folder panel. We could select these and put them in, but I like working from the Windows File Explorer. So we can go to the Season 1 folder, select all of our files, and put them in here. Now we have the original file names and the new file name, but you notice it hasn't changed yet. So the next thing we need to do is go to Import TVShow, and we'll read this again if you want, but I'll pass through that and go to the next one. And we'll pick our Magnum 2018 and Season 1, and then OK. Now, the only thing we've done is imported that data into our program, but we don't see it yet. We can start renaming the files, and I'll show you where it's going to show up. If we go to the methods, I'm going to use the new name method, and you can see we have a list of TVShow tags. These are just another group of tags that we have in here. We used the advanced tag before, if you remember, with the CSV file data, but there's a separate section for TVShow tags. We can start with the name of the TV show, and you notice it takes the imported data and puts it in our new name here, the new file name. Now, of course, we got a lot of errors, and it says possibility of multiple file names, which is true because they all have the same exact name. So we don't have anything different in them. So the next thing we want to do is we'll pick the year and put that in. Now, I'd like to have the year in parentheses. So what we'll do is put a left paren in here and a right paren. You notice we still have the errors, but we'll change that. Now, I also like to see a space in here. So let's go between the two here, right before the left paren, and put a space. Okay. The next thing we need to do is put the season number in. And if we go here, remember to go to the end, if that's where you want to put it, past the date, the 2018 date. And we'll just leave a space and we'll put the season number in. Now you notice the format for Plex wants an S01 or S00, whatever. So we're going to have to put an S in there right in front of the season number. We'll click there and put an S. Now right after the season we want the episode number. We're going to put an E for the episode just to follow the format, and we'll put the episode number in. And just make sure that they match up with what you already have in here. There's 1 through 20, 1 through 20. And the last thing, if we leave another space, we want to put the episode title. Now, we have the episode title. We have pretty much the whole format that we need for the Plex server to recognize the file names. Now you notice after I put in the episodes and seasons, actually the episodes, it took the error away because now each file name is different. There are no duplicate file names. And if you see in the error section, we got OKs all the way down. So all we need to do is hit Start Batch, and this will go out and replace these original file names with these renamed files. And we did it using the built-in function with Advanced Renamer, and didn't have to cut and paste or go to a spreadsheet to do anything. We did it all directly. And remember, the tag functions are very useful. There's a couple other things if you wanted to use any of these other pieces of data from the imported TVShow data. You can throw that in too if you want. So that's how to do it using the built-in function. Well, that was the Plex file naming using the Advanced Renamer, and I hope you got something out of it. It sure works for me when I need to rename some files. And don't forget, you can use that program for other things other than Plex. If you have a bunch of files to rename, it works wonders. There's so much function built into that. I may have to do another video at some point. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend and a great week next week. And I hope you give me a like on this and maybe subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to making some more. I'd like someone to put some comments in just to let me know what kind of videos you would really like. I don't get a whole lot of comments. So, have a great day, great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye.